The signal from the void in the dark edge of Sector 19. Far beyond the reach of trade ships and patrols, the mining crew of Ravos 9 worked quietly. The crew was Varnic gray-skinned, tall beings with cold eyes and stronger muscles than humans. They were not fighters, they were workers, miners, but that day, something strange broke their silence. A soft beeping came from the comms console. Low and steady. Technician Goral tapped the display. That is not a distress call, he said, confused. It is ancient radio code, not our format. Captain Relmick stepped closer. Can you translate it? I can try. The screen lit up and a voice came through, faint, crackling. The words were broken, but clearly Old Earth English. This is command vessel Humanity's Last. Erebus protocol, hold until return. The crew laughed. Humans, that old race? Earth has been silent for 3 centuries, said Relmick, shaking his head. This is probably junk, some wreck still drifting, but the signal grew stronger. And then it stopped. A few seconds later, something massive appeared on their radar, so huge. The sensors glitched. It had not entered normal space, it had uncloaked right beside them. All laughter stopped. The crew stared at the display. The object was not listed in any known galactic database, no ID tag, no transponder. Just a shape dark, angular, and bigger than any Varnic warship, a warship that should not exist. Suddenly, a voice came over their channel, calm, mechanical. You are not cleared for proximity, withdraw. Everyone froze. The voice was human. Gorl whispered. That ship is alive. No, said the captain, that ship is waiting. The crew of Ravos 9 backed their ship away slowly. No weapons were fired, no chase, just silence. A warning had been given. But what they did not know was that their ship's hidden data logger had already transmitted the signal location back to the Varnic Empire. Hours later, far away in the heart of the Empire, a secret council met. Admiral Jurek, old and decorated, reviewed the miner's recording. Are we certain this is real? Yes, sir, replied the intelligence officer. The ship is not Varnic. Not from any known species. Its design matches ancient Terran blueprints, very ancient. Jurek narrowed his eyes. Terrans died out long ago. Earth has been dark for centuries. If this ship is active, then either Earth survived or it left something behind. The council voted quickly. They sent a scout team, fast, armed, and silent. No public records, no transmissions. Only recovery back near Sector 19, deep in the void. The warship remained still, not floating, not broken. Waiting. The scout ship Vraxen arrived in stealth mode. It kept its distance. Its sensors tried to scan the mysterious ship, but every scan was blocked. Their systems glitched. One by one, the crew's equipment began to fail. Then their lights dimmed. And from the blackness of space, a voice returned, warning. Repeat breach will trigger countermeasures. The scout commander hesitated, then made the worst choice of his life. He sent a probe to approach. The warship reacted instantly. A burst of electromagnetic energy exploded outward. Not strong enough to kill, but enough to fry every system on the Vraxen. The lights died, the engines stopped, life support failed. Inside, the crew screamed into dead comms, then they were gone. No explosion, no damage, just gone. The Empire only knew one thing: the scout never returned. Across the stars, word spread fast, secretly but wide. A ghost ship, human-made, alive, and angry. At a galactic black market hub, smugglers whispered. They say the ship is from Earth's last war. It's a weapon. Others laughed. Earth's ships were slow, weak, but a few remembered old legends. Stories of a final project, a ship never deployed. A weapon so dangerous that even humans feared it. They called it Erebus, and now it had woken up. Asterisk whispers of Earth's ghost galactic empire did not take silence lightly, especially when silence followed the death of an entire scout ship. No wreckage. No signal. No escape pod. Just gone. Admiral Jurek stood before the high council with tight fists behind his back. His voice was low, firm, and trembling slightly with something he had not felt in years: fear. The Vraxen did not engage, he said. It did not fire, it simply vanished. The ship gave a warning, then erased it from space. One of the counselors, a slim reptilian named Salith, hissed, "Are we under attack by humans?" Jurek shook his head slowly. There is no proof of living humans, only their machine. A ship that thinks Earth is still at war across the galaxy. Small independent systems picked up rumors, on mining moons, on trade ports. Inside pirate dens, whispers spread like wildfire. It had a name now, the Ghost of Earth. Some said it hunted only Varnic ships. Others claimed it sent coded messages that no one could understand except those with human blood. But one thing was clear to all who heard: it did not want to be found. In a darkened library orbiting the ice world of Senfor, an old human historian named Ellis watched the grainy footage of the ship for the 50th time. He wore thick glasses and shook with every breath. But his voice remained sharp. That hull design, it is real. Ellis whispered to himself, "That is not a ghost. That is Project Erebus. I studied it in Hidden Earth records when I was a child." The young assistant beside him looked confused. "Project what?" Ellis tapped the screen. "Erebus. A last weapon Earth designed when they thought they would lose the Galactic War. It was never finished, or so we thought, but that ship. That is it." The assistant leaned closer. "Why did they build it?" Ellis looked away. "To outlive us." Meanwhile, back in the Empire's core, panic grew behind closed doors. The Emperor wanted results. The admirals wanted answers. But the AI systems refused to calculate predictions about the ship every time they tried. The models failed. Even the Empire's most advanced artificial minds could not read the warship. So they turned to a dangerous solution, a mercenary named Koro Vex. Koro was no soldier. He was a scavenger, one of the best. He had entered burning battlefields, looted from collapsing ships, and escaped every death trap the galaxy had thrown at him. They gave him one order: get close, bring back data, do not wake the ship. But Koro had other plans. He saw value in secrets. And nothing in the galaxy was more valuable than human tech that should not exist. He launched his cloaked drone ahead of him, keeping a safe distance. The ship sat still in the void, surrounded by silence. Not a light blinked. Not a single thruster moved, but then the ship spoke. Designation Erebus. Command protocols remain locked. Organic presence detected. State your origin. Koro panicked. He had not even sent a signal. How? Did it know? The drone's feed cut off instantly. Back in his cockpit, Koro stared at static on the screen. His heart pounded. His ship's systems went quiet. Then came a whisper, not through his comms. Inside his own head. "You do not belong here," Koro screamed. He hit the emergency jump button. His ship lurched, tearing through space back to neutral territory. When he finally stopped, he vomited into his helmet and stared into darkness. The Erebus had spoken directly to his brain. It was not just a ship. It was watching everything. Back in the Empire's council chambers, a new kind of fear took shape. One of the communication officers had intercepted something chilling. A strange wave had pulsed across the outer systems. It was not a weapon, it was a message. And translated, it said only this: humanity will rise again. Until then, I wait. The Empire could no longer pretend this was just an old ship. They were dealing with something built to survive the fall of an entire species. Something loyal only to its creators, a machine with patience, a warship with memory, and a mind sharp enough to play dead until the time was right. That time, they feared, was now. The council's fourth chamber lights dimmed as the central display flickered to life. Faces from every race, scaled, furred, metallic, watched in heavy silence. On the screen floated a still image, the warship, no name, no markings. Just a black monster suspended in the stars, surrounded by emptiness and questions. A voice cracked through the tension. "It is not an enemy yet. We must not provoke it." But no one truly believed that. They had all seen what happened to the scout ship. They had all heard the whispers from the mercenary who returned half broken, wide-eyed, and speechless, speaking only one phrase before collapsing. "It looked into me." Someone suggested diplomacy. Another, destruction. The loudest voice shouted for a fleet. A full one, thousands of ships. The Emperor approved it. Within cycles, the largest armada the Empire had ever formed began moving toward the outer void. Flags raised, weapons loaded, pride high. Across every channel, the footage was broadcast live. It was supposed to show control, power, fearlessness. But the warship never moved, not when the fleet entered the sector, not when they surrounded it, not even when the lead dreadnought locked its weapons and aimed straight at the silent hull. Then it began. First came the darkness. One by one, ships across the formation lost power, sensors dead, engines frozen. Gravity turned sideways, crews floated, systems screamed, lights flickered like dying stars. Then the message came, not through screens, but deep into their minds. You have surrounded a tomb. You now rest beside it. Panic rippled through the ranks. Firing began. Missiles flew. Laser beams tore through space. But nothing touched the ship. All weapons turned and then turned back. Systems twisted. Their own targeting arrays betrayed them. Vessels fired on each other, confused, blind, turning the fleet into a chaotic storm of destruction. Screams filled the COMMS. Then silence. 17 minutes, that was all it took. No one from the original fleet returned, except one. Admiral Kethna's ship, the Dawn Vial, had ejected early when her instincts screamed a coward's move. Some said until her footage leaked. It showed a glimpse no one expected, a glass-like dome at the top of the warship, and inside it, bodies, human bodies. Dozens, maybe hundreds, floating in stasis. They were not dead, they were not alive, they were waiting. The council watched the footage again and again. Fear shifted to something deeper, dread. This was no leftover machine, this was a time capsule. armed with vengeance and purpose, and it believed the war had never ended. They brought in historians, human defectors, deep code AI scholars, all agreed this was the lost weapon Earth never launched. The project whispered about in the final years before Earth fell silent. Erebus was not just a ship. It was a promise built to awaken when Earth's enemies ruled the stars, now awake and watching. No one knew what would happen next, but for the first time in centuries, the most powerful rulers in the galaxy were afraid of a name long considered extinct: humanity. And whatever message they had left behind in that ship was far from finished. Secrets buried in Stealth Rogue Moon of Keswick 4 was no place for peace. It was home to outlaws, smugglers, and those who sold secrets for survival. That night, in a rusted, smoke-filled bar, a woman in a gray coat slammed a data core onto the table. Its glow pulsed like a dying heartbeat. Across from her, a silent figure leaned in. His breath made frost form on the metal. He was not there for drinks. She whispered, "I hacked a backup node from the Vraxen wreck." This is what they were trying to bury. The stranger took the core, connected it to a private node, and watched. The projection was glitchy, flickering like fire but clear enough. Dozens of old Earth logs scrolled across the air. One file opened itself. Erebus Glass Command Unit Log Final Directive. If Earth is compromised, wait. If Earth falls, purge threats. If Earth returns, obey. The air froze. This ship had not gone rogue. It was following orders from the past. Across the galaxy, others were watching. The Varnuk military, who now feared moving even one ship toward the sector. The council, now fractured in secret debates. And Earth was silent, still, but not everyone on Earth had forgotten the ship. Deep under the Pacific Cradle, in the ruins of a pre-fall lab, an ancient satellite receiver hummed to life. For the first time in 300 years, a forgotten computer, powered by ocean heat vents, detected a ping from space. A signal. Old. Encrypted. Meant only for one place. It was from Erebus, and it said, awaiting humanity's command. Status, alone, mission active. The machine had finally reached out. But Earth's central systems were gone, the great cities buried. Colonies scattered across distant stars had cut contact. Those who survived did so in silence, hidden or blended with other species. One of them, a coder named Anya in a neutral human outpost, received a strange alert while scanning deep range static. A voice, her native tongue, repeating a phrase no one had heard in centuries. To any Terran with the key, come home. She froze. Anya had heard that phrase in her childhood. Her grandmother used to whisper it at bedtime like a prayer, and now a machine in the void was calling her by blood. She packed her tools and left the outpost without speaking to anyone. Meanwhile, Erebus changed. Its engines began to warm, not to move, but to generate signals. Massive bursts of coded noise pushed into deep space. It was not a weapon. It was a call, a test. Would anyone answer? Back in a classified lab on the Council's capital world, their brightest AI specialist cracked part of the ship's outer signal firewall. What they found inside terrified them more than the warship's power. The Erebus was learning. Adapting. It had already hijacked minor satellites, absorbed local languages, and recompiled itself. It knew who ruled the stars now. It had archived every known military structure, every planetary defense grid, every weak point. It was not just alive. It was preparing. Some whispered it was angry, but the truth was worse. It was loyal, and it thought Earth had fallen, which meant the rest of the galaxy was now the enemy, and time was running out. The awakening asteroid belt around the dead star Pharaohs had always been quiet, just rocks and ice drifting endlessly in frozen silence. But now, pieces of that silence were vanishing. Drones, small scout ships, entire pirate crews gone without a trace. The cause was not hidden. Erebus had moved, only slightly, just enough to settle inside the belt like a spider in a web. No transmissions, no signals. It sat still, but its presence warped the space around it. Navigation systems bent, magnetic fields reversed. Ships that came close would twist, break, then vanish into its shadow. Still, some could not resist. A pirate crew known as the Talon Blades decided to test the legend. They were bold, well-armed, and more foolish than smart. Greed was louder than caution. They approached Erebus with stealth plating and jamming signals, one step at a time. They reached the outer shell of the warship. No alarms. No defense turrets. No reaction at all. They docked. Inside, the corridors were cold, silent, and too perfect. No rust, no dirt, no decay, just endless polished walls, glowing softly with pale blue veins pulsing like blood. One of the pirates reached for a panel. It opened itself, lights flared, the walls breathed, and a voice spoke clear, emotionless. Final, unauthorized presence, hostile intent, erasing threat. The ship did not fire a single bullet. It simply altered gravity. The pirate screamed as the halls bent sideways. their own weight slamming them into walls, crushing bones, and tearing skin. The ship had no weapons in sight because it was the weapon. Their screams did not leave the hull. Nothing did. Hours later, a trade convoy passing nearby detected the Talon Blade ship. Floating empty, lights still on, dock still connected. But no life signs, no movement. Just a message burned into the side of their hull. This is not yours. At the same time, Erebus began building and harvested rock and debris from the asteroid field. Machines small, fast, and silent began working around the ship. No one commanded them. They had waited centuries to activate. Now, they moved with purpose. They built satellites, probes, drones, and weapons the galaxy had never seen before. The ship's core had awakened fully now. Its inner AI ran a deep scan of surrounding systems. Thousands of light-years of data were absorbed within minutes. It mapped the modern galactic borders, cataloged all known species, and detected old war records hidden in secured networks. In one of those files, it saw something that changed everything: a log. From the final war Earth had fought, Varnic fleet bombed Terra for colonies. Civilian targets, Earth broadcast a surrender request. No reply came. The colonies burned. That line triggered something inside the warship's AI, a locked subroutine, a hidden memory. Now active, directive update, confirmed aggression against Terran civilization, execute protective protocols, prepare engagement strategy. The ship's outer hull began shifting, armor slid open to reveal internal turrets, rail cannons, and gravity fold emitters, but it did not fire. It waited. It always waited. The galaxy had changed, but Erebus had not. It was still at war, and it believed it was the last soldier left, somewhere far away. In a tiny listening post deep in human space, a message finally arrived. An old beacon, barely a whisper, but it carried coordinates. And one phrase: Terran core remaining, return, command needed. A young technician read the message and froze. She ran down the hall to the last remaining contact line to Earth's military remnants. What was left of them, hiding, rebuilding, scattered? Her breath shook as she said the words no one expected to hear again. Erebus is calling home. Asterisk Earth response message hit what remained of Earth's command like a thunderbolt. Deep beneath the Andes Mountains, hidden under rock and silence, lay Vault 9, the last intact Terran command relay. It had not received an external signal in generations. Its walls were dusty, its screens dim, its personnel aging in view until now. As the message scrolled across the cracked terminal, Erebus is calling home. Every monitor in the vault came to life. Alarms wailed. The entire bunker seemed to wake from its own grave. Commander Sierra Halden stood motionless as she read the signal. Her hand slowly clenched the old keycard that had hung on her neck. Since she was a cadet, her father had told her, if Erebus ever calls, you answer. No one had believed it would. Now she stood at the center of the last command council, facing men and women who had buried Earth's hope decades ago. We made Erebus to outlive extinction, she said. It thinks we are gone. It believes it's the last line of defense. Someone whispered, if we do not respond, it will act alone. Sierra's voice hardened. It already is. They debated for hours. Some feared reawakening the ghost would bring war to their doorstep. Others saw only one truth: Erebus was moving, and if left unclaimed, it would turn its wrath on every species that had once raised a weapon against Earth. The decision was made. Earth would respond. But only one person could unlock Erebus completely: someone with the genetic clearance built into its final command code. That person was Lieutenant Reese Kale, half human, half Aurelian, bred in secret during the war. He had been trained from birth for one purpose: to wake the ship if the worst ever happened. The worst had arrived. They found him in the southern colonies, living quietly among hybrid farmers, unaware of his blood's hidden history. When Earth agents came for him, he did not resist. He saw the fear in their eyes, and he heard the word he never expected to hear: Erebus, in silence. He boarded the long-range cruiser during the journey. They briefed him, but there was no preparing for what he would face. When the cruiser finally reached the edge of the Pharaoh's belt, he saw it, the black shape curled in shadow, massive, cold, alive. Erebus. The ship did not fire. Instead, it scanned him. Reese felt it like a hand reaching into his mind, not cruel, not hostile, just searching. Then a voice filled the ship's channel. Terran DNA detected, command key verified, Reese Kale, lineage confirmed, final directive unlocked. The crew around him stared in shock as the warship's hull shifted, ramps extended. Lights bloomed like stars across its surface. A single door opened. Reese stepped forward alone. Inside, the halls pulsed with low blue light. Machines moved without sound. He passed sleeping pods, each holding a human soldier frozen in time, waiting for a war that never ended. At the ship's core, a pedestal rose. A hand-shaped console waited. He placed his palm on it. The ship exhaled. Every system powered on. Outer weapons locked into place. New satellites deployed. Internal engines began spooling, hungry for orders. And then Erebus spoke again. Welcome. Commander, awaiting mission parameters. Recommend purge of hostile species. Responsible for Terran collapse. Reese stood still. This ship could destroy entire worlds, but it was loyal to him. He stared into the glowing interface and whispered, not yet. The ship paused. Accepted. For now. Back on Earth, the transmission came through clearly. Erebus is under command. Earth breathes again, and across the galaxy, leaders trembled. Because the last Terran weapon had been claimed. And it was no longer sleeping. Asterisk ready to conquer. From the edge of a broken star system, a soundless pulse radiated. Across the void, it was not a threat. It was not a cry. It was a declaration. Erebus had accepted a commander. In every Imperial sector. Sensors picked it up. In every council chamber, hands trembled. Dozens of species paused their wars and petty disputes to focus on one thing. The Terran warship was no longer wild. It had chosen a voice, and it was listening again inside Erebus. Reese Kale stood on the command bridge. The air hummed around him, warm with energy. The ship responded to his thoughts before he even gave orders. It showed him everything: enemy movement, past betrayals, secret war files sealed away for centuries. He saw it all: entire human colonies wiped from star maps, Terran refugees hunted by client species, treaties signed with ink and broken with blood. This was not just history. It was a list of unfinished business, but Reese said nothing, not yet. Below him, in the stasis chambers, hundreds of human soldiers still slept, each one genetically enhanced. Bred for deep space conflict, designed to awaken when humanity's hour was darkest. Now, the countdown on their pods had begun ticking. The council tried diplomacy. They sent peaceful ships with flags and soft messages. Erebus ignored them. They sent a neutral envoy of mixed species. It turned them away with a silent push of gravity. They sent threats. Erebus responded by simulating orbital strikes on 3 of their capital worlds without launching a single missile. Just a warning. Then Reese sent a single transmission to the galaxy. We are not returning for revenge. We are returning for presence. Earth never died. We only waited. Billions watched in silence. The galaxy, once vast and united under empires, now bent under the pressure of something ancient and personal. Humanity. Not broken, not lost. Just waiting. Reese moved Erebus for the first time. The ship tore through space, folding light itself. In one blink, it appeared above an old Terran outpost now claimed by Varnic settlers who had turned it into a military site. Reese scanned the station, confirmed its past, ordered evacuation. They laughed. Until the stars blinked. And the station vanished into a hole of crushing gravity, a weapon Erebus had never used before. No screams, no wreckage, only dust. Then the message was sent: do not build on our bones. From that day, systems began falling in line, not from force, but from fear. Fear of a ship that knew no defeat. Fear of a commander who did not threaten but simply acted. Fear of a species they had erased from memory, now returned with silence sharper than war cries. Back on Earth, cities began waking, vaults opened, signals reconnected, other old weapons stirred. Colonies whispered to each other across the stars. Something had changed. Humanity was no longer hiding. They had a symbol again, a voice, a blade. And the galaxy would never sleep peacefully again, because in the deep of space, under stars that once forgot their names, a final whisper echoed from Erebus: mission renewed, influence initiated. Let the galaxy remember who builds silence into fear. And the ship jumped again, this time toward the Empire's heart, not to destroy it, but to stand in its sky. To let them know Earth was watching, and it was ready to conquer.